Hello, and welcome to this Relocate Global Think Women event for International Women's Day. Today we're talking about ripples of change for women in the post-pandemic world. And to do that, I'm joined by Fiona Murchie, who of course is managing editor of Relocate Global, and Vlatka Hlupic. Let me tell you a little about Vlatka, and she'll obviously talk a little bit about herself as well. She is in the world's top 11 most influential HR thinkers. She's an award-winning thought leader on leadership. She's the author of the groundbreaking book, The Management Shift, How to Harness the Power of People and Transform Your Organization for Sustainable Success. Forbes described it as one of the top 8 business books of 2014. She has a large number of professorships at universities and business schools. She's a PhD and a renowned speaker and writer, and we are delighted and privileged to have her with us today. Hello, Vlatka.
Hello, and thank you so much for inviting me to participate in this interview.
Oh, well, it's lovely to have you. Let's get straight down to you. Tell us about you and tell us about this concept of the management shift.
So at the moment, I'm professor of leadership and organizational transformation at Health Outreach Business School. And also I am CEO of the Management Shift Consulting Limited, which is the company I founded about 6 years ago, which brings together my whole life's work. And my life's work, which is my life purpose, is to spread these ripples of change and to help as many leaders and as many organizations to go through the big shift. The big shift, it means going from old ways of working based on command and control to new ways of working, which are more humanized, based on people, purpose, and collaboration. And I believe this is now more important than ever before.
And is this still a revolutionary idea, or are you making good progress towards this more inclusive and purpose-driven style of leadership?
The idea has been around for a while, and other scholars have been talking about the why we need to go through this big shift. They've been talking about the what companies need to do, but a practical way of doing that was lacking. So because I have a very interdisciplinary background, I started my career as a computer scientist, and then about 15 years ago, I became behavioral scientist. And after studying all these different disciplines, I have been able to connect the dots together and create all these tools, processes, models, which have been used now for about 10 years with various leaders and organizations to help them to go through the big shift and to change the cultures of organizations to become more people, purpose-based. And many people are contacting me now saying, you have been preaching this for about 15 plus years, but now it will have to become new normal as we are entering this new world of work, which is more hybrid. Some people will stay working from home, some people will go back to offices. So the culture that we need will have to be based on people and purpose to move forward with kind, humane leadership as well.
Humane leadership. Give us an example. Give us a really practical example of what humane leadership, as opposed to command and control, looks like.
So a humane leader will lead from head and heart. Humane leader will take care of their employees. They will show compassion. They will also have a clarity in terms of communication and the purpose and where organization needs to go now in these turbulent times. Humane leader will build communities, facilitate people to self-organize, to support each other. It's also a lot about creativity, thinking outside the box, and let people make decisions on the basis of their knowledge. Let people figure out how, when, and where to do their work, and just focus on outcomes instead of micromanaging, which is just not going to work anymore.
So it's interesting, isn't it, that this pandemic has perhaps accelerated this movement. What have been your observations of what's been happening over the last year?
I think the old world, as we know, it's changing rapidly, and I believe things that didn't work before are coming to the surface. So we now have a chance to recalibrate. We have a chance to recalibrate and co-create a better world, not just in the business, but in healthcare and education. So it is a chance for humanity to do things differently, to use the power of technology, but not to forget the importance of human connection. So we need to keep seeing each other face to face when possible. And when we go back to this hybrid world of work, we have to make sure that we maintain this human connection. And technology has been helpful. And I can mention that my last face-to-face talk was for Relocate Global exactly a year ago. And I have done lots of talks since then through Zoom from my office. I've spoken to thousands of people, but I fondly remember the day at the Institute of Directors when I connected face to face with all these inspirational women in the audience, and it was just unforgettable. So I can't wait to stand in front of my audience again live.
Yeah, and you were wearing proper shoes back then. We may never wear proper shoes ever again. I don't think my feet will actually fit into proper shoes again.
Yes, I wore the high heel shoes, which I haven't worn for years. So I don't know how it's going to feel.
I think some women are saying that they're never going to wear high heels ever again. That's the old world.
Let's see how it goes. But we must keep this, as I said, this human connection. And it's important that leaders get it, because when leaders take care of employees in crisis, employees will work extra hard when things get better, and they'll be loyal. And we know there is a war going on talent. It is difficult to attract and keep the right talent. So leaders that show this humane side, they will be able to create cultures and environments where they will be able to attract talent more easily.
Now, the title of this webinar is Ripples of Change for Women in the Post-Pandemic World. Talk to us about this concept of ripples then.
We can explain it even from neuroscience, because with our mirror neuron brain cells, we pick up the moods and emotions of people around us. So the whole concept of the management shift is based on the key idea is that there are 5 levels of the management shift, and every level describes thinking patterns, language, behavior, leadership style, and organizational outcomes. We cannot skip the levels. We can only go up 1 level at a time, but we can have pockets of different levels within the same organization. So at lower levels, we have a blame and fear and command and control. So these are levels 1, 2, 3. And then the big shift or the management shift is when we move from level 3 to level 4 and 5. So at level 4, the keywords are trust, transparency, purpose, collaboration, having fun working, making a difference for the world. So when we are at lower levels and when we are surrounded by people who are at lower levels of mindset, it's like a negative vortex of energy. So it's really de-energizing. You can't achieve much. We know many companies have low levels of engagement, passion for work, purpose, low level of productivity and profit, because all that has an impact on profit. But when we go to these high levels, we spread positive ripples. So everything changes. Innovation, engagement, performance, and profit go out substantially by 3 figures, sometimes within a year or 2. So when we are spreading these ripples with our thoughts, with our actions, with our language that we use, we impact the people around us. And we can explain this with quantum theory, how we contribute to the collective consciousness as well with our thought, behaviors, and words. It's really, really powerful, and many people don't realize that. So when we operate from these high levels, levels 4 and 5, we spread those positive ripples. So we affect people around us, and then it spreads to the rest of organization. And then in time, it spreads beyond organization. So we shift entire society. And what is very important is that leaders spread the biggest ripples. They have the biggest voice, the biggest impact. So it is my life purpose to help as many leaders and companies to shift to these high levels, so we all impact and co-create the better world at the end.
And it's interesting what you say about individuals making small changes, creating that first ripple, because I suspect a lot of people feel that they're powerless if they are not the CEO or the CFO of an organization. But you would say that anybody can create a ripple.
Absolutely. And let me share an inspirational story, which was a woman who works, Céline Cholineau. I interviewed her for my latest book, Human Capital. So she was working for a pharmaceutical company, and she realized she reached the glass ceiling. And she realized that all board members were middle-aged men, and she couldn't progress further with a career. And she decided to write a very short email to CEO saying, "Dear CEO, this executive board is not diverse enough, but our customers are, and we need to do something about that." And initially, CEO did not respond, but she sent an email to her colleague, and the email went viral in organizations. So few weeks later, they started some forums, they started some publications online. So everybody got on board. So she created a whole movement for diversity and equality in that company. Few months later, she created a Facebook group with over 200,000 followers. She then eventually, CEO started to listen as it went viral. He created a new job for her, and she did really, really well. And now she's independent, a freelance consultant. She even got OBE from French president for all this work. Wow. She's a French lady. So I share this story so just to show everyone, if you're a man or a woman, you can make a difference. You can spread those ripples. It could be one short email, such as in this example, or it could be one conversation on Zoom or over coffee. It could be one blog. It could be anything, something that you really feel passionate about. Speak about it, share it, and you never know where these ripples will go. Because we know from complexity theory, a one small change can lead to big impact.
And of course, that's the joy of the 21st century with the technology that we have available, that one email can reach many thousands, or that tweet or Instagram post or whatever. What would your particular message be for women as we're emerging from this pandemic? And we know, of course, that women have had a particularly difficult time juggling, wearing, as you put it at the beginning, very many hats. Our heads are sore from wearing so many hats.
Yes, I think women are most affected by this pandemic, and with any crisis as well. So they bear the brunt of care responsibilities, and they have to homeschool their children, and they have to keep juggling the jobs if they can still keep their jobs. And we know that women take their majority with 0 hours contracts. We know that they're mostly affected by job losses in pandemic, etc., not to mention domestic violence and other serious problems as well. So what I want to say is that I think this whole experience showed us how powerful we are, how resilient we are, how can we multitask. And if we could get through this, we can get through anything. So the message is, keep going. Everyone is a hero in this situation, and especially women. So be aware of this power, be aware how strong you are, and be aware of the ripples you create. Maybe it's your own family, maybe through your job you are touching lives of hundreds or thousands of people. It doesn't matter how big your ripples are, but just keep going and be proud. Be proud of what you achieved. Be proud you're managing so well in such a difficult situation.
You mentioned the French lady that sent the email and how that had a broad impact. How important do you think it is that these stories, these sorts of stories, are shared widely?
I think it's very, very important, because when we hear such inspirational stories, we can think, oh, I can do something similar, or I can make a change. I can impact the world in different ways, because as I said, with our thinking patterns, with the things that we say and do, we are impacting first our environment, but then eventually we are spreading these ripples of change more widely. So just remember that how powerful you can be, and you are, and use this power for the good of humanity, and obviously your family and people you work with and so on.
And of course, women can be very supportive of each other. Women naturally, don't they, form communities. And I was going to ask you, Fiona, Think Women is about a global community supporting and promoting international women. What sort of things have you been hearing in this last year? How have women been coping, and what have their experiences been?
Well, it's interesting, because we started Think Women with very much international professional women in mind. And of course, there are many different types and circumstances. But women working in an international environment, some of them have had a really difficult time, not as people who are at home with families and children and lockdown and school and split responsibilities, but there are also people who've been on an international assignment, for example, who are in a country or a region that they don't know and are on their own, and their only support really is through the Zoom and their connection through work, which can be really quite limiting. But then we've heard about this quite sophisticated global mobility professionals, and the different hierarchies there are in there, offering support, who understand the context and are reaching out to people and supporting them in different ways. But also these sort of movements that swell up, for example, choirs and singing, which people can do all around the world. I think that's absolutely marvelous, and art and joining in with creative things, sharing. So that human contact and those relationships. And it'll be interesting to see where international assignments go and where international jobs go. But what I would say to you, Vlatka, I mean, do you think that things are going to change with regards to international roles, or do you think actually this might be a bit of a kickstart for people to put their toe in the water for going for an international role while there's a virtual opportunity to take up a promotion or something?
Yes, I think this will kickstart various new trends, because I don't think we will ever go back to the ways that we had before this pandemic started. So through this remote working, there is a chance for more mobility as well. And I know that a number of countries, including my home country, Croatia, have started issuing digital nomad visas, where people can come for a year, work remotely for a company anywhere in the world, but then live in a country which perhaps has more sunshine or some other advantages that they don't get in their home country. So I think the whole world of work is going to change.
Mm. And people are choosing where they might want to live and work, as you say, and don't necessarily have to be based in one place.
Mm. So more opportunities. I mean, Vlatka, a lot of people are saying that women's rights have gone backwards in the pandemic. What's your vision for the immediate post-pandemic future, and of course, and more long term? Are you optimistic?
I'm always optimistic, and as long as we get awareness about the opportunities, there's always a silver lining in everything. So as long as we get awareness about the opportunities that this situation will bring us, and as long as we take these opportunities and as I said, take an action, spread those ripples, we can then initiate the change. So I feel that the whole situation, as I mentioned at the beginning, will allow us to think what hasn't worked well in the old world. How can we change it in all areas of our lives? And how can we then co-create a better, more just, more healthier, happier world? And I think we all have a duty and responsibility to work on that.
Mm. And if people want to find out more about how they might do this in very practical ways, where can they go? Where can they look?
Well, the best place would perhaps be to go on my website, themanagementshift.com, and there we have information about programs and tools, and also there is a membership area. I am building a community, the Management Shift community of like-minded people, so people can sign up for level 1 free membership with various learning resources, book chapters, articles, videos, and so on. And I'll be delighted to hear from anyone in the audience to connect, and I can be found on LinkedIn, for example, and other social media platforms.
And that's important, of course, because we talked earlier about how valuable it is to hear other people's stories, to have role models, case studies, to see this ripple effect in action, because it might just be the thing that we need to dare to send that email or post that article. Fiona, what are your thoughts about how valuable this is to your community?
I think it is hugely valuable because the more resources we can give people, the more opportunities to start that ripple, the better. And even if it's a short-term thing, which might lead to greater things, it's all worthwhile. So I'd also encourage anyone who wants to send us a short blog or a case study of what they've done, how they've noticed a management shift over the past year. That would be really fascinating, and we can publish those and pass those on to Vlatka. So I think, yes, there's plenty of ways people can get involved, and the important thing is to take that first step and to be surrounded by like-minded people. You don't, what you say or do or who you meet, you don't know what's going to spark. And that wonderful sense of the flow that Vlatka describes, when you're perhaps doing a project piece and you think, oh yes, I'm at a level 5, and that lifts your spirits for days. So I think even reading about it or sharing examples will really make a difference.
Well, I'm certainly going to go away and think about the ripple that I can create today, something positive, a small thing that I can do. I'm sure you are too, Fiona. Vlatka, it's been a delight talking to you and listening to your brilliant ideas and hearing about the books. Thank you very much for joining us. And Fiona, I wonder if you'd like to give us the last word.
Yes, thank you very much. Well, thank you both for joining us today. We'd like to welcome people to the resources on the Think Women pages, which will be available on Monday to celebrate International Women's Day and throughout the year. And we'd love to hear from you. Please do get in touch. Remember, we're a multimedia, so there's plenty of resources all year round. And we hope very much that we can do something with Vlatka to help share her ideas. Thank you very much again for joining us. There are details about the books also, and I've got a copy of the latest Humane Capital one, which is certainly well worth a read.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
Yes, it was a pleasure. And thank you, Jane, as well, for a wonderful, insightful interview today.
My pleasure. Lovely to be here.
So thank you very much for attending, and please do keep in touch and let's hear from you on the Think Women community.